Welcome to 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator. Each week, I sit down with a different author to explore what lies behind the pages. Growth, purpose, finding your voice. Enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, I am honored to be joined by author Kelly Morgan, whose book is titled You Sound White. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, why don't you tell our listening, viewing audience about you and your background, and then we'll start to talk a little bit about the book. Those of you who have been watching the show, you know we're not going to tell you everything that's in the book, and Kelly got a lot of chapters in this book, so we can't even tell you everything
Yes.
in 30 minutes.
Yes. My name is Kelly Morgan. I'm an indie author, indie publisher, and I, have always wanted to be a published author. When I found myself at a place that I could publish my book, I decided to go ahead and write this book. I've always had a book in me. I've always been a writer. And so when I just decided that I was just going to write this book, and it just kind of poured out of me. It's fiction, but a lot of the things that happen to the protagonist actually happened to me. Right. And so somebody always told me, when you write what you know. Right. And so I just kind of wrote what I know, weaving it into fiction, but there's a lot of truth in there.
One thing I realized when I wrote my first book, I felt like it was healing as a part of the process of writing. Like a lot of things that I had been thinking, a lot of things that I never disclosed, I actually disclosed in my first book, and it actually made me feel better to not
Yeah,
no longer hide those things.
agreed. And I wrote that when I had walked away from my comfortable corporate 9 to 5 job, and I found myself with no job in time. Right. And that's what I decided I was just going to write this story. And it kind of played out like a movie in my head. So sometimes I had to struggle to keep up with the dialogue of the characters as they took on a life of their own.
Wow, that's awesome. I said I have to put on my list to sit down and write a book with characters. My next book that's coming out, I tell stories about others that I've met or worked with. So I guess that's kind of a character, but I guess the character doesn't necessarily unfold throughout the book. So I'll have to one day when I'm just sitting down, relaxing, start to sketch out some characters. I'm pretty sure I have some
They'll
characters up
start to
in me.
they'll start to have dialogue on their own, and you'll be like, "What? Oh, okay. Is this what's happening?" So yeah, you'll find yourself trying to keep up with the characters if you just let them unfold.
I love that. I love that. For me, writing is also therapeutic. I'm a person who likes to write in the journal. Every month, I write down what bills I have to pay, and then I cross them off once I make the payment. And then if I got a longer list of things to do, I'm writing. Sometimes I also reflect on, wow, you've been paying this bill for a long time. You need to figure out how to get rid of this bill. So I could write a book about having a lot of bills.
And for me, my second book was a journal, just writing my thoughts down, not really trying to write a book, but when I went back and was reading it, I was like, wow. And it gave me the opportunity to, as you say, heal. When I was in high school, just writing bad poetry, writing through my pain. So writing was always one of those things that was my go-to when I was not in the best mood, when I was sad or whatever. Writing always helped me kind of level set it because I could see it on the page, and then it's kind of real when it's looking back at you, and then you can kind of make decisions about, okay, how am I gonna change it, or what am I going to do, or especially if you don't like what's on the page, right? So yeah, that writing has always been very therapeutic for me.
So, as you know, Kelly, I'm in Chicago, and I feel like a lot of the youth that are growing up today, maybe if they would have been able to write down how they were feeling and had an opportunity to reflect on it, maybe they wouldn't make some of the decisions that they are making to be bad actors. I wonder if that could have changed their path in life.
I think so. I think when you are able to take a minute, and because writing takes a minute, right? It takes a moment. You have to actually sit with yourself for a little while and write what it is you're going through. And people say, well, what do I write? Write that. Write that you don't know what to write, and you'll be surprised what will come out of that,
Mm.
right? Give yourself, just be in the moment. And I don't think we give ourselves enough time just in today's climate, right? Everything is go, 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 go. Everything's on a screen. You can get all your information in 30 seconds, be it true or false, right? Be it AI or real, it doesn't matter anymore. And nobody takes, I feel, to take the time to kind of sit with themselves and write. Because to me, when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. You had TV, but you had three channels: ABC, NBC, and CBS. That was it. That's all you got. And maybe Fox, right? And that was it.
And
So,
with the antennas that you
right?
had to move.
So it's what they call appointment television. If you wasn't there at that time, you missed it. So you found yourself with a little bit more time to maybe be more creative and express yourself. You had the opportunity.
Yeah, I often joke about, because I'm a 70s baby, early 70s. And I feel like as a kid growing up, I had the opportunity to stay in that space, right? I wasn't forced to take on a lot of responsibilities. And so that allowed me to be a kid, to be creative, and just grow as a part of that journey. But I feel like a lot of kids today have to grow up so fast that when they talk about what they're doing at 10, I'm like, what? I didn't do that till I was 17.
Right? Well, you weren't like overstimulated with all these different images, just constant information. You can get information 24/7, right? Anytime. Just grab a phone. It's readily available. And
Remember when the
so,
TV used to go off?
yes, TV went off the air, right? It went to the snow screen. Yes, TV was off the air. Now it's 24/7. And somebody said to me, the reason why everything is streaming is so that they, whoever they are, can have control of all the content. And it made sense. So, all the more reason to write it down, all the more reason to publish books, all the more reason to tell your story, right? All the more reason. If all the images that are streaming can be altered to whatever they want it to be, right? They get to form the truth. Well, why not? Why don't we start maybe writing down our history, our what you know? You know what I'm saying? That to me would just make that's something that we're not encouraged to do anymore.
Absolutely.
I remember being in school and really being taught how to write an essay, how to really formulate it and put it on the page and format all those things. I don't think they teach that today, which is kind of mind blowing because the computer programs will do it for you.
But I do a lot of work with technology, and I don't like when people say, "Oh, the computer can do it." The computer can't do everything. You still need to use your brain. And if your brain doesn't have the ability to control the computer, you take what the computer says as, as the truth,
you
when it's
you
some of it is a distraction.
well, you've given up your voice, haven't you?
Mm.
You've given up your voice. So when you let AI, let's say, write your book or formulate your thought for you, right? Then you've given up your voice, and you've given up, to me, you've given up everything, because that's the one thing you own that nobody can take from you is your voice, unless of course you willingly hand it over.
I'm keeping mine.
Me too. Absolutely.
So listen, Kelly, in the prologue of the book, You write this phrase, I've been told I sound white all of my life, which really, as the reader, it confronts us with how language is used to assign somebody's identity, especially like if you're over the phone. Can you take us way back to the first time you heard that phrase and how it shaped your sense of belonging?
The funny thing is when I heard that phrase, I didn't hear it from somebody who was white. I heard it from somebody who was black, right? And so I was told by black people that I sound white. And so I heard that when I moved to Oakland, right?
Mm.
And so I moved from Salt Lake City to Oakland. My sister lived in Oakland. So I moved to Oakland. And I remember walking into a store and asking for something, and the lady did a double take and said, "You sound white. Why are you trying to sound like that? Why are you, I'm not trying to sound like anything." Do you know what I'm saying? I I never heard it bluntly like that. The whole time that I lived in Salt Lake City, when I worked, the places that I would work, I would only be the person of color, right? Usually I was the only person of color in the office. It was me and nobody that looked like me. So they would always tell me, they wouldn't tell me I sound white. They would tell me that I speak so well. Oh, you speak so well. You articulate so well, you know? And then when they would speak to me, it would be very subtle. Maybe Mary would be, "Good morning, Mary." And Kelly would be, "What's up, Kelly? What's up?" Right? So I would get a special stereotypical because of what the images, I figured this out, the images that they were seeing on television, which were the same images that I was seeing, right? Mind you, this is a white space. This is Salt Lake City, Utah, right? Not a lot of black people, not a lot of black images. And what you do see, you're going to see on your television. So now, because I have dreads, I'm Whoopi Goldberg. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, all the stereotypes. So, the "you sound white" came from my own people. "You sound
Mm.
white, Kelly. Why do you sound like that?" You know? Um,
Kelly, 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 let me tell you, I have to tell you this. So I was teaching at this community college, and the population of students, it was a mixture of black and white, mostly black. And one day, one of the students said to me, "You're a different type of black woman."
mm,
And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know they had different types. Tell me more." She sat back and was like, "Well, what I mean is," I'm like, "Yeah, tell me what you mean." Now I'm teaching a class that was healthcare related, and we had this little 10-minute conversation about how I was a different type of black person. And at the end of the conversation, I told the person that I grew up in Chicago in the inner city. I was around people who spoke clearly, and I emulated what I heard. It wasn't that it was a white or black language. I was just being me.
mm-hmm. And so it's crazy. And so even working, working in corporate America and being told that I speak so well. "Oh, Kelly, well, you'll be, you'll go far because you speak so well." Being told in high school that, you're not like them. You're one of the good ones, whatever that means. So a lot of things that happen to the characters in the book, a lot of that is true. Just things that have happened to me. Um, just even white women trying to relate to you on the level that they're dating a black man, and what should they know? This is a true thing. White women have told me, "Oh, I'm dating a black man. What should I know? What do I need to know?" Well, men are men, aren't they? I thought so.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I didn't know there was a difference, but I mean, so things like that, and trying to really navigate and really claim your identity without somebody telling you who you're supposed to be simply by how you sound.
Wow.
That is what You Sound White is about. And because I've had so many experiences, that's why I made so many different characters, so I could kind of level set the different experiences that I've had through different characters. And all the characters are from people that I know, right?
Wow.
So people that I just kind of incorporated their personalities into the characters.
You probably should turn this into a movie later. It could definitely be on Lifetime.
That's like, that's so funny because somebody said, "Who's your inspiration?" And as much as I will admit it to myself, honestly, when I was growing up, I used to love those Jackie Collins smut novels just because they read like soap operas, right? You could just sit down and just read all the whole thing and be like, man, just the whole story. And I would just get caught up in these worlds, right? Just she would just take you to these worlds that you would never be in, these spaces, these rich people doing these rich, wonderful things. And just, I love Jackie Collins as much as people be like, really, Kelly? Yes. And when I wrote the book, it just reminded me of the way that her stories played out for me. This book played out as a movie in my head. I saw all the characters, everything that happened, right? And the poetry is mine in the book. Do you know what I'm saying? I wrote it as I wrote the book. It
I
was it
love
was
that.
weird. It was just such a it was so weird to write and watch the characters come alive.
You could see
And
them, couldn't you?
yes, literally, and they would have these conversations. I would literally have to keep up with the dialogue. And dialogue I figured is incredibly difficult to write.
But you did it. You did it. So Kelly, I have another question for you. So throughout the book, you, to me, kind of explore how language is a form of gatekeeping, deciding like who belongs and who doesn't belong, who's questioned, who is, who's not questioned, who's accepted, who's not accepted. Um, do you feel like your ability to speak very clearly cost you anything personally?
Yes, 100%. My ability to speak the way that I speak, I feel sometimes kept me out of Black spaces.
Mm.
I do because I feel like when I was in high school, I didn't have Black friends. All my friends were Mexican, right?
Mm.
Because they accepted me for who I was. Where I always felt like Black people were judging me, right? Judging me for how I spoke, what I did, who I hung out with. And growing up in Salt Lake City, yeah, I have a variety of music that I listen to. Again, don't put me in a box. Don't tell me that because I'm Black, I have to listen to R&B and soul and rap, and that's it. I can sing. I've listened to everything. I've been to heavy metal concerts. I grew up in Salt Lake City, but that to me widened my horizons. I just didn't know it at the time, right?
Kelly, they hated on you because of the diversity of your life and experiences.
Maybe. And so yeah, Black people, even when I moved to Atlanta because I wanted to. Atlanta was a place that I really thought I could thrive. And ooh, boy, the South was different. It was a different flavor for me because I'm not from the South. It was a different flavor. There's nothing wrong with the South. It's just not necessarily for me because again, I had a hard time maneuvering because of how I sound. Right? I'm really articulate compared to the Southern dialect. So now I'm really something else.
You sticking out now.
Right? Right? So that was hard to maneuver in those spaces. The South was exhausting to me. So I had, when I had the opportunity, I moved back west to where I felt I could maneuver and at least be more accepted. So now I live in Colorado. Not that I'm necessarily more accepted, but it is what it is at this point in time. This is how I sound. This is what it is. Take it or leave it. I've come to terms with it, but it took me a very long time throughout my life to understand that ultimately you're not going to put me in a box. You're either going to accept me for who I am and how I sound, or you're not. Right.
Keep it
And that's just
moving.
kind of how it goes.
Yeah, you know what? I think as a nation, we have a problem with accepting someone who appears to not be like the norm. Or, for example, in chapter 14, you talk about being labeled,
The angry Black woman.
yes, angry Black woman. How do
Because
you?
if you find yourself sticking up for yourself, not necessarily being aggressive, but being firm, standing up for yourself and what you believe and not shrinking or backing down, even if I take my voice up an octave, but I'm still remaining in control. Now I'm angry. Now I'm something else. And that's how we are perceived. And I would experience this in corporate spaces. I have two master's degrees, and I would find myself just as educated as the woman sitting next to me. She can get hysterical. They're handing her Kleenexes and consoling her. I raise my voice. I'm angry. I'm aggressive. Kelly, we need to have a talk. We're going to pull you aside. It's, you know what I'm saying? So
Intimidated.
yes, it is, but you have to really kind of step back and learn that shrinking yourself isn't the way to go, and really kind of stepping into your own power as a woman of color. And really, for me, it was creating spaces as an author that maybe were not there for me, which is why I decided to publish the book, start my own publishing company, and create a space where I could help others, get their words out there, because there's not a lot of spaces for Black voices to shine, although our stories are fantastic and equally as important as all other stories. I don't care what color you are. If you're, stories are stories, and they should
Stories are
all, the
stories.
playing field should be level. All stories should be have the same opportunity to get into the hands of those who want to read them.
And you know what I think? That for me, this is year 3 of 52 authors, 52 weeks. What I've realized by interviewing different authors every week, we are more alike as a nation than we give ourselves, no, than they give us credit for. Because I
Yes.
feel like the media has put these, I don't want to say that they're invisible lines of division, because I feel
But
like they're
they
very,
have. They have put deliberate lines, pitting you against one another, giving you these images. Always, that's what I'm saying. Why it would be such a great world if we never had to check the box, right? If you never had to say, what race are you? What does it matter what race I am? What does that have to do with anything I'm trying to accomplish in this world? And ultimately, we make it a thing all the time, and we are more alike, because ultimately, don't we all want the same thing, Lisa? Don't we all want to be happy, and don't we all want to be loved, and don't we all want to be accepted? And this is what I told some, because somebody said, well, not the racist person. Yeah, even the most vile racist person out there still loves their family, still wants to be accepted with whatever group. I mean, they still want those things.
mhm,
Do you know what I'm saying? Whether you agree with their tactics, they still want those things. I'm
the
sure they have
basic
a family.
need, right? The
Yes.
basic need that we
Yeah,
all
just
have.
basic, right? And so where the hate comes in, why the separation, I don't know. But I feel like you sound white. It makes somebody told me, Kelly, nobody's ever gonna accept that. The title is just why. Why would you do that? Why would you put that title out there? This is what I've been told. This is what y'all told me, you know. I'm
Kelly,
still told to this day. What do
they've
somebody,
been telling you for decades.
I've taken this with me. Why not? If the title makes you uncomfortable, I suggest you check yourself.
That part. So I want to go back to chapter 6, because there's two characters. One name I can't pronounce, so I'll just use Chloe. And
Tallulah.
the other one, Tallulah, right?
Tallulah.
Lula, right? So they, um, in some shape, form, or fashion, were basically saying, I refuse to shrink, to lower my, to lower my standards to fit the stereotypes. Um, what made you want to highlight how they chose authenticity over all the things?
Because for a long time I felt I would alter or lower myself to fit into whatever mold people were telling me to fit into so that I would be accepted. But I realized that's just not the way, right? I realized that that's just, it wasn't working for me. I was never happy. And I feel like when you shrink yourself, when somebody says you are something because how you look, they automatically make those assumptions and you buy into that, you are shrinking yourself, especially if it's not true. And so in the book, they are in a store buying $700 shoes because Chloe has it like that. And the saleswoman assumes that they should not be there, right? Assumes that they're not, because of how they look and how Chloe talks, that she couldn't possibly afford $700 shoes. And Chloe's disheartened because she works hard. Why would you just assume that by how I look? My money's good, my money's green, but because my skin is black, you make assumptions. But
That
the woman,
I
but
don't
the
need it either, right?
right, but and so Tallulah had to tell her, don't shrink for anybody. We have to try harder and be better. And remember, she's still just a shoe clerk in a store. You're out here doing it. Don't shrink for her. Don't let her rent space in your head. Don't
Mm.
buy in to her limiting beliefs about
Mm-hmm.
herself. That is
Mm.
a reflection on her, not you. And it took me a long time to get there, but I believe that's what I believe. That's what I try to mirror and project. And so when I find myself in black and white space, it don't matter. Bottom line, I'm Kelly. Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm just gonna tell you about me, Kelly. As a person who's in my 50s, I am who I am. Yes, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. I'm always seeking to be a better version of myself to help others. But you're not gonna make me be somebody else. I'm gonna consistently be authentically Lisa every day. It's too difficult to keep up all those personalities.
Mhm. Yes,
So I'm just gonna be me.
100%. And you're always better off. And if people fall away, they were probably never meant to be there in the first place.
I say repel and attract.
Right?
Repel and listen. Some of them folks, a lot of them folks, you like, bye. What they
Mhm.
say? Bye, Felicia. Bye,
Bye,
Felicia.
bye, Felicia.
Bye, Bobby. Because you didn't need them in your life anyway, because they were
Right,
toxic.
right.
So
100%.
Kelly, we almost out of time. I have one question that I have to ask you. So You Sound White by Kelly Morgan. For our listening viewing audience who may be sitting there saying, dang, I recognize myself, and you got to get the book, folks, so you can see all the experiences. But I recognize myself in those experiences, sounding too white, too much, not enough. Um, what do you hope this book gives us permission to do differently moving forward?
I really hope this book gives you permission to be who you are, right? However that is, however you sound, however you look, I want you to be unapologetic for who you are, especially because I'm a Black woman. I want us to be unapologetic for being Black women and stop shrinking, right? And stop tearing down one another, right? I mean, I feel like we are so strong together, and that is why they deliberately try to pit us against one another, because we are strong, we are fierce. Black women, you know what? Bottom line, ladies, we are the blueprint. We are the blueprint, and I believe that. So that's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm out here as an author. That's why I always welcome to collaborate with other Black authors. I just feel like we need to build a community, and that we do have spaces, but we don't have a full-blown community yet. But I feel like we're all on the same page. I feel like slowly we're all getting it.
It's on the way. What we're doing right now is just laying the foundation. And you know about us, our foundations are solid.
Right, I
So
feel
there's
like,
no
yes.
cracks.
Yep.
So, Kelly, I have two last questions to ask you, which is more about you. And the first question is, where can everyone find you?
It's easiest to find me on my website, which is brightheadedpublishing.com. And there you can go and check out my books and everything that I have going on.
I love it. And then my very last question, what's next?
So for me, I have been focusing on my marketing services. I'm very passionate about helping authors find the right readers for their books. So I've got I'm launching paid services in January. I'm very excited. I got digital products. I got a whole directory kind of matchmaking service with podcasts and book clubs and bookstores, and this whole thing called Trust Bridge series is coming out in 2026 because I'm very passionate about helping somebody get their words out there and really not breaking the bank. I get it. So I've been, for the past year, I've just been really building the platform, building the infrastructure, and really building the trust, right? Because I want to be mindful and I want to bring value.
I love that. And you know what? When I just mentioned about foundation, folks don't know. When we put our wheels in motion, we've thought it through. We didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to start this tomorrow.
Nope.
We write the vision and we map it out very plainly, and then we come out when we execute. You like, whoa, you did that? Well, yes, I did.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kelly, it has been such an honor to meet you. I am excited about what you're going to do for the author community, but also this book, You Sound White. I guarantee you there are hundreds, no, thousands of women who can identify with this. There's this author. Her name is, I think it's Lesbeth Liba. She wrote a book called I'm Not Yelling.
Yes. Yes.
And so I read that book and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know why. And so that's why I have to intentionally, when I'm in meetings, be very methodical about what I'm going to say and constantly checking my emotions so that I can get my point across, but not be yelling, not be the angry Black woman, but just clear and concise.
Right. And totally be in control of what you're saying and very mindful. So I really, I don't listen, I don't speak, I don't answer. When I answer, I'm listening so I can really come up with a full thought before I speak. But I've learned that over time because I've been burned, because of me being very passionate and being misconstrued.
And the haters, they're going to hate regardless. They wake up. They wake up not happy with life.
Yes.
and living rent free, right? You living rent free in their head. And when you open your mouth, they're like,
right.
There she go again.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they ignore what you say only to have to circle back to what you said, but then don't want to give you credit for what you said.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes they want to pull you aside, have you say everything, and then take it into the room like they said it.
Okay, Kelly, we getting into a whole nother topic now. Kelly, write that in the next book. A whole book on just that part right there. You stole my idea. That's the name of your next book, Kelly. Well, listen, Kelly, I really appreciate you stopping by 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're doing in the U.S. and abroad, because there's women abroad who need to hear this and see this. And to everyone listening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
You've just experienced another conversation from 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, Season 3. The conversation may pause here, but the growth continues. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator, and I'll see you next week.